Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to be working on a Daiwa Laguna. This is a spinning reel. It's the 3000 size. It'll give us an opportunity to look at how that reel is made and, well, how to service it and how to keep it running for some time to come. This is a nice 3000 size reel. It's got 5 ball bearings in it, if I remember. And overall, it's a smooth running reel that just needs its annual service. So we're going to start by taking off the exterior pieces and parts. And as we do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel, particularly if you like the art of servicing fishing reels, whether you're doing it as a business, doing it for fun, or just trying to learn out how to do your own reel. I try to provide a good video on a variety of types of reels, so that it can coach you in terms of the steps required to make the reel run properly and keep it fishing for a long time to come. And well, if you have a problem with the reel, it'll show you how to service that and correct that issue as well. All right, we took the spool off. Next, we're going to remove the shim washer, which controls the line height and the click ratchet. Usually you can pull them up and out. Sometimes they're a little stubborn, so just take your time. This one has 2 of them on there, so they tend to catch, but that's the ones that control the line height. Oftentimes when you get a reel in the box, you'll see some extra washers in there and wonder what they are. Those washers are for adjusting the lay of the spool because of, well, the variances in the tolerance of the manufacturing of the reel spools. So if your line is gathering all to the top, you need to remove a washer to lower the spool. And if your line is gathering to the bottom, you need to add a washer to raise the height of that so that, it can collect properly and line evenly. Okay, we've taken those, the spool, the drag adjuster, the hold fast for the rotor nut, and now we're removing the rotor nut, and that comes off in a traditional counterclockwise manner. Notice when you take the rotor nut off, that one side has an extension on it, kind of an inner cup that faces down. And this is a good place to tell you, if you're working on a reel like this or any reel that maybe you're not as familiar with, well, what you want to do is you want to take pictures along the way so that as you work on it, you'll have reference points in the event that it's time to reinstall and maybe something doesn't go the way you think it should. All right, I've just removed the handle by removing that through screw. I like to put the handle screw right back into the handle, that way I don't lose it. And as you're probably wondering where all those parts going, I use a parts tray to collect all the parts that I've removed. All right, next off then is the rotor, and there's not much going on inside the rotor here. There is a little trip bar below here. You can put a drop of oil in there. Also oil the seams of the bail and oil the line roller. And that's all you need to do on a bail service, so long as your bail is flipping nice and easily. If your bail is getting stuck up, or if for some reason you're in a situation where that that reel got dunked in water or something and you got to go inside to remove the dirt, well, then you're going to want to remove the bail. Otherwise, you don't need to do that. Next up, we're going to work on the inner case. The first piece out is a screw here that holds the bump guard. I believe that's the only screw. Yep. So there's tabs on there, so be very careful. If you break the tab, you're going to have trouble on the reinstall. Next up, we have 2 screws. Well, we have 3. A flathead screw here, 2 rounded screws. This is a good place to take pictures because, well, when you start collecting all these pieces and parts, you may find that one of them doesn't fit properly, and that's probably because you're trying to put a long screw in a short hole or something different. In this case, both of the round-headed screws which go up top are the same size, so we don't need to worry that. And then we have a flat screw here, and we noticed that was part of this cover, went under the cover there. So just remember that, and again, if you took a picture, that'll help you to remember. With those 3 screws out, we should be able to remove the side case. And we're a little sticky here, but that's probably because this needs a good oiling and cleaning. On the inside, we have a shim washer that goes between the bearing. Actually, we have two shim washers that go between the bearing and the main gear. And I would say it's time for this reel to be serviced, because looking at this reel, it's very dry. I'm going to flood the bearing here with fishing reel oil. That's Penn Precision Reel Oil, if you're wondering. But I ask that you use fishing reel oils and greases as you're working on your reel. I don't have a preference for one or the other. I think that little squirt bottle that it's in is a Lucas oil bottle that's being reused. But regardless, use the fishing reel oil products. Okay, we want to bring this all the way down now. And I think we might be able to remove the main gear. We got the infamous Daiwa little clip on this side that's holding that main gear in. Well, I got to go to my safety pin if I can find it. If not, I'm going to have to go get one. But there's a little 5-pointed clip that holds this gear in place. We're going to shut this off right now. We'll be right back with a safety pin. I usually have this pin sitting on my desk, but I guess the last time I got cleaned up, it kind of went away. So there's a 5-sided spring that fits in a ridge here. Might be hard for you to see it. You can see one section of it there. And the safety pin seems to be the best answer to how to bring it all out. You want to walk it out and about. And then you want to be careful not to lose the darn thing, because, well, it is just that, a very tight little spring, and springs will shoot. And I will just show you what we were working on there. That's what we needed to fish out, that piece right there. A 5-sided spring. And of course a special place in my parts tray for that, because I don't want to lose it that way either. With that pin removed, now we should be able to remove the main gear. Okay, this anti-reverse is in the way right now. So these are that series of reels that Daiwa made where you kind of have to take the whole reel apart to get back to where you want to be. So we're going to remove the top end now. This is a reel design that they've used on quite a few of their reels now. And well, just makes for interesting work all around. Okay, we have the plate. Notice that it is not symmetrical. So we note that when it comes, this is the top. And one way to remember the top, I'm going to put the 2 screws in the top side before I put it into my parts tray. Alright, now we should be able to pull up on the anti-reverse piece as well as the collar. Pull everything out. Okay. And then we have below that, we have 2 more screws holding in the bottom assembly. I think we can probably leave that in for now. You might want to use a micro screwdriver on this. I'm using a number 1 Phillips head with a tip that seems to work where some micro screwdrivers are required. Okay. So again, another good place to take the pictures. So we have a bottom collar, we have the top collar, and we have the anti-reverse piece. And now we've got the rest of this assembly. So it's going to go like this. That's your inner race for your anti-reverse. And this is going to sit on top, the other one on the bottom, and we'll just put a special corner of that parts tray to hold these pieces. Okay, now with we can get that out of the way. Remove your main gear now. That comes out. The main gear comes out. The oscillation gear comes out. We have 2 more bearings. This is a good time to clean your case if your case needs cleaning. So if you do, just grab a cotton swab or the like. And we want to oil the bearing. I'm going to flood the bearings on this side just like I did with the other one. Flood the bearings on the other side. Clean if there's any grease on here. This is your oscillation gear. We're kind of walking it back now. So you're going to bring in your brush. It's just a hard bristle brush. I'm pulling through on the oscillation gear to pull all the old dirt out. And I put it on a paper towel so that it transfers to there and not onto my table. All right, with that down, we can put the, probably want to put some grease on there. So the blue grease I'm using is Penn Precision Real Grease. And again, don't have a preference for which greases or oils you use. I do have a preference that you use fishing reel greases and oils when you work on your reels. Seat your oscillation gear, bring it to the down position. Inspect all the teeth. Make sure that you mop up the inside of this where there's a little bit of old grease. And you can tell this is the first service on the reel. And this groove here, that's where that 5-star spring is going to sit. Again, you might want to take a bristle brush and pull through your teeth if there's any evidence of old dry grease and dirt in there. And then we can bring our grease to that. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you'd like to maybe know a little bit more about how it's used, maybe a little bit more on the company, maybe a little bit more on the style and design, just leave those questions in the comments section. And by the way, if you have a question on any reel, it doesn't have to be this one, if you have a question on any reel that maybe you're working on, maybe you're stuck with, maybe you're curious about, whatever that is, just leave that in the same comment section. They all come to the same place in the YouTube there. And well, when the morning comes, I generally read them, and that gives me the gives you the opportunity to see what I'm up to, and well, get your questions answered. Okay, I tilt it this way first, then I want to get the main gear started, and I want to bring the oscillation gear back in. Make sure that you get the crosswind portion of that axle shaft onto the stud. Bring this over, turn it around. Go get your annoying little clip. Now don't spread the wings on this clip. What you want to do is come in over the top so that you just have a little bit of tension to get it started over the shaft like that. Hopefully you can see that there. If you try to put it into the thing and pull it away, you're going to lose the tension on that, and it will well, it won't be effective any longer. Walk that down, and then the next thing is kind of the opposite of what we did with that safety pin. You want to pull it over, and this by far is one of the more valuable tools when you're working on this reel. As I mentioned, there's several reels that Daiwa does in this fashion. So if you get good at the one of these, you'll get good at all of them. Okay, I think we got that. Just going to push down with a screwdriver just to make sure it's all locked in. Okay, next up we want to come back to our assembly here for our pinion gear. I just put these parts here because it's a way for me to remember that that's where they go. We'll start the same thing with the pinion gear that we did with the oscillation gear and with the main gear. We're going to take the brush and pull out the old greases. Re-grease. Oil our bearing. And I flood that. I don't put greases in the bearings because greases tend to hold the dirt and debris and degrade the bearing. Bearing goes on. Inner collar for your anti-reverse goes on. And then we can bring this over and mesh this with that main gear. Make sure when you do this that you are all the way down in the seat. So that you can put that next collar on. The next collar I set aside over in the parts tray. It's going to fit in these grooves here. And then I'm going to switch over to a micro driver because these two little screws are kind of difficult to get in. If I use a micro driver with a little bit of fishing reel grease, generally that'll enable me to hold that screw while I go about trying to get it started and tighten down. Okay, one more of those. So the collar needs to be aligned a little bit better. I probably need a little bit more grease to hold it. All right, there we go. All right, so that's the bottom end there. Again, I'm going to switch that driver. Next up, our anti-reverse comes in. You don't do anything with an anti-reverse. Don't oil it or grease it. It's a friction-driven piece. We have a tag here for an override. We have the collar for that override here, so when you go to install, make sure it drops down just like that. And actually, I think we got to flip it this way. We do, so that we can align the notches in the metal case with this carrier. Just like that. Now we remember that we put the two screws and the carrier here so that we knew what the top was. And I think when I just did that, this little washer here came off to one side. So we're going to put that washer back in. There's two small washers on there. And we can bring this back in again. And like the other one, we're going to take our time. We're going to match up our shield. Grab the two holes. This one I think I can start with my finger. And go back to put the driver on that. Seems like it's a lot of effort on these. There's no quick, easy grease and go. Not that I recommend that. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it all. But it is kind of interesting that the whole reel has to come apart to do the service on it. And most of the videos I do, you see that all of the reels come apart anyway. But just a point of note, if you're trying to get in and get out of a reel, this is not the one for you. All right. Nice and tight. Now we can bring our side case over. We've already oiled that bearing. Just need to get the two washers. The silver one went in, the bronze one went out. Bring your case on, make sure you get a nice clean snap like that. And then you'll recall that we have two longer screws that are with the rounded heads, they go up top. So if you're wondering why I wear a protective glove, it's for that reason. There's a lot of dirt and oils and chemicals and things that, well, I'm just not quite sure about in a lot of the reels that I work on. So that protective glove, it's just one of these little vinyl gloves that, well, just makes things, keeps the dirt out of your pores and onto the glove. The downside of that is that it transfers the greases that, well, normally would have wound up on your hands. It transfers them to the reel bodies most of the time. So you just have to do a little bit of extra cleaning there. Alright, we're trying to get this last screw in here. Okay, with those tightened down, the next thing up is the bump guard. You've got a groove here that sits on that peg. You've got a tab end here that goes in. And again, you got to be careful with these. You don't want to break any of these. This one kind of is a two-step thing. You sort of have to line it up with the one and the other. Push up. Make sure you're in. You should be aligned on the bottom so that you can use that screw. Get that back on. These bump guards are there so they fracture rather than the reel. If you wind up slamming it on a deck or something, you're only going to break the plastic rather than the case or some of the internals. Next up then, the rotor goes on. Remember what we said, this nut has a cup, or an extension of a cup, that goes down. Then we can tighten that up. It's a traditional tightening. And we have this little offset here for the tie down. Once you have that orientation set, put the screw in, and that'll keep the rotor nut from spinning. At this point you can give it a spin, make sure that everything's doing what it should be doing. It's working nice and smoothly. Alright, we're going to put our click ratchet. This is the one that's going to make the noise when the spool is spinning backwards. There is a little click nut piece right here. That clicker will intersect with the ridges on this. And that's how you'll get a click, click, click when the line is going out. Kind of a bait alarm to let you know that, well, your line is moving for whatever reason. Alright, the two of these go on next. And we bring our spool on. Oh, before we do the spool, let's do two things. Let's put the handle on, and then let's check those drag washers in the spool. Alright, handle seats on the one side, screw goes through the other, tighten it down. This is a collapsible handle, but you don't need to move that screw nut to do that. You have a little trigger here to collapse the handle. Like that. It took me a while to figure out which way it was going. There's several different varieties of this. A little bit of oil in there will help keep it nice and fresh, lock it in. Let's go over to the drag system. My guess is that these are going to be felt washers. Seems to be what is used in this type of reel, but we'll see. Alright, I need to get a smaller screwdriver. I'm going to work myself behind the bigger 5-sided clip. You saw the small clip in the axle shaft, or the main gear. Now we have a bigger clip, same idea, holding it into a groove. And let's see what we have here. We have a kind of a leatherish washer kind of thing, and they're stuck. That only means that we need to put a little bit of lubrication on them there. This is a traditional 6-drag setup. You have 2 that are keyed washers with rectangles in the center. You have one with 2 points on it that's called the eared washer, and that goes in the center. Alright, I'm going to use a little bit of grease. I'm going to put that into my glove. We're going to wipe it in because it's a porous washer. That'll keep it fresh. It'll also help it from not sticking to the metals. Bring the first one in. We start with a drag washer, then a keyed washer goes next. Do the same thing, kind of dipping it in that grease bucket, and then this is where that glove becomes a tool. You don't have to worry about getting grease all over your hands as you're spreading that around. And this is the most efficient method that I have found for spreading the greases. It's also how I guess the greases at the end of the day kind of pool up, transfer over to the body. Same thing, find a groove, start with one end, find a groove, bring it in, and when you're done, that's how it should look. Alright, that's done. Set the grease off to the side, bring this back, load it on. Let's put the adjuster on next. Right now I think we'll take that glove off because from this point forward it's only going to be putting grease onto the body of the reel. We don't need to do that. Tighten it down. Make sure that the drags are holding. And back it off. And here's what we were talking about with that bait alarm. When the spool is spinning backwards, you can hear that click, click, click from that ratchet. Okay. Just buff it up a little bit. Make sure that all the old greases are off. Time for a final test. Oh, that's a nice smooth operating reel. Very nice. It came in a little rough. You saw why. It was very dry. And well, now it's back doing what it should be doing. Check your bail. Make sure that it's firing nice and easily, which it is. This reel's ready to go fishing again. Well, I want to take a moment to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for making this channel what it is and for supporting us all these years. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.